Hi, everybody, and welcome to a special 100 Days edition of Newsmakers TV. I'm Jerry Roberts. It is Thursday, May 1st. Happy International Workers' Day to those who observe. I am truly delighted and honored to host today's guests as we welcome back Newsmakers' panel of all-star pundits who collectively have worked in and around politics and media. I was thinking the other day for some 200 years. In alphabetical order, Bill Carrick, veteran political strategist and advisor to preeminent Democrats, notably Senators Ted Kennedy and Dianne Feinstein. Carla Marinucci, longtime California political writer for Politico and other outlets, and former political editor of the San Francisco Chronicle. And Dan Morain, ex-editorial page editor of the Sacramento Bee, LA Times investigative reporter, and author of a biography of Kamala Harris. Welcome, guys. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having us.
So we last met on October 31st, 2024, appropriately enough, Halloween, 5 days before the nation's most fateful election in half a century. At the time, the economy was growing. It's now contracting. The U.S. was the global leader of democratic countries. Now we're not. Habeas corpus was an intact constitutional right dating back to, oh, say, the Magna Carta. Now it's not. And we didn't have tariffs on Australian penguins. Apparently now we do. So much has changed, but let's level set to start. How are you feeling about the state of the country, about the state of yourself, about California, 100 days into California's second presidency? Things better or worse than you expected? Carla, let's start with you.
How am I feeling? This is a big question. I mean, where do I start on the list of concerns? I'm the concerns about the gulags, the disappearances, the homegrown criminals being sent to prisons abroad. My concerns about the free press. I watched those White House press briefings, and I mean, every time I'm just gobsmacked about the kind of questions and the kind of people that they've allowed into the White House press room while keeping AP out. We can go there. The tariffs, the prices,
All they have to do is say Gulf of America. They'll be right back in.
right? Watching the cabinet meeting, the dear leader cabinet meetings are mind blowing. For decades I tried to be objective on this as I covered this, and then you can't be when you're watching the concerns about the levels of corruption with the crypto thing and Trump offering private dinners to big investors. I don't know where to start. There's a whole list of things, and it's being reflected in the polls. Obviously, this is coming down. This is filtering to the voters. I don't know if the Democrats are benefiting yet, but it's starting to happen. The Apprentice, wins that Trump had. He was able to have these fictional wins every week on TV. I think it's we're seeing that the reality this time around is really
Yeah,
starting to hit him.
Dan, Carla touched on 0.5% of the concerns that many of us have. What's your state of mind?
Oh God. Well, I
Oh,
hate
God.
what's
There's
going
bad
on
one.
with foreign affairs. I cannot imagine being in a fight with Canada. Um, and I guess Trump and Zelensky have done some sort of deal with regard to Ukraine's rare earth minerals, and maybe that will help Ukraine. I don't know. It just seems so mercenary. But the ones that really bother me are the cuts to science and healthcare. I mean, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. would not be where he is without his father and his uncle. And what is being unwound by this administration, um, uh, with regard to vaccines. I mean, JFK was a big proponent of vaccines. Um, what he did and what he would have done had he not been murdered, he would have vastly expanded healthcare, and we're contracting there. So I think, and the whole measles thing and vaccines and it's, I mean, to me, it's just it's um, the level of hypocrisy, the level of well, I just find it appalling.
All right. Bill, how's your state of mind?
I'm generally depressed if I think about politics, because Trump is impossible. All these decisions are just irrational nonsense, and he doesn't see any of this in sort of a big picture way. This tariff thing is something he's been hung up on for the last 30 or 40 years. And he just saw an opportunity to do it, and he was going to do it, despite the fact that it's really wreaked havoc on our economy and much of the world's economy. Dan's point about the healthcare, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s had three uncles, all of whom were healthcare advocates, all of whom made historic changes in the healthcare system. Vaccines are part of that. Overall healthcare coverage is part of that. It stuns me that Trump has a whole family of people who are healthcare advocates, and he finds the one that is not. How
Yeah.
did he do that?
Well, and Head Start, Head Start got its start under President Kennedy, and now we're going to unravel that. Head Start.
Yeah. Well, all right. There's our big picture. Let's zoom in just a little bit. Talk about California for a minute. Bill, you were pretty close to the wildfires in LA, obviously, and gee whiz, in any normal time, you'd have the president flying out there, and what can I do, and how can I help? And instead, we're in this weird situation where the FEMA money is being threatened, and maybe it'll come, maybe it won't. What's your take on how Trump has affected California and how effective California has been in combating him?
Well, he's been terrible. As we all know, he has a big time grudge against California, and he can't stand us, and he's not going to do anything to help us other than kind of what he did, which is come to the Palisades and spend 2 hours and then go up to his golf course. He's impossible to deal with, and I don't know we're going to get much help out of them, and if we do, it won't be timely. The governor has got a big burden on his hands because he's got to figure out, the reason he's so confused about Trump is he's trying to get money out of him.
Right.
And everybody's got these theories that why he did this and why he's doing that. He's trying to get money out of Trump. And he doesn't, they went through this with the fires before in the first Trump term. And I think he understands you're dealing with a nutbag here. And if you can try to coax him into being helpful, that's a big responsibility for the governor, but he's going to take a lot of criticism for it because there's so many people in the Democratic world that just don't think talking to Trump is kosher.
Yeah. Dan,
Well, he's got to, though. I mean, Newsom has to. I mean, I think he's being a governor. He's not hugging Trump. He's not going to the Oval Office with Trump like Whitmer did. But I think he understands that he has to. He needs something from Trump. So he's certainly toned down the rhetoric, and yet he's suing over tariffs and being highly critical of that. I mean, this is going to have a huge effect on the ports of Los Angeles and Oakland. Huge effect.
Already has. I mean, they're empty, a lot of them. I mean, this is the thing. I mean, California in the last week became the fourth largest economy in the world. And yet the White House is still, attacking California, and so are the Republicans. I mean, House Republicans yesterday voted to stop California from on the zero emissions policies that for clean air.
No, you can't clean your air.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
California has been aggressive and you've seen Rob Bonta all over the cable news. Last time around they filed more than 100 lawsuits, and this time they're already in court over deportations, over funding freezes, over firing. So
Carla, so let me just ask you, because you started covering Gavin when he was a parking commissioner. Bill and Dan both sort of credit him for doing what he can, and but what about the podcast? What about the transgender athletes? What about all of that kind of stuff?
I think, yeah, he's trying to walk a tightrope here.
Is that because of 28?
Yeah, I think it's 28. I think there's no question that he's preparing himself for that, and he's trying to figure out what is his profile as he goes forward. He does need to, one of the things that the Democrats have had a problem with, they got to put the brakes on some of the far left policies that are not popular with voters. And I think Newsom is out there trying to at least have that discussion, whether he's been successful or not. Every time he says something even moderately sort of centrist, like on transgender issues or whatever, the far left of the party goes ballistic on him. And that kind of circular firing squad we've seen time and time again in the Democratic Party. It's one of the things that has taken them down. So I think maybe he's addressing some of those issues, whether it's been successful. Sitting next to Steve Bannon and letting him go off for an hour about how the election was stolen from him without really challenging. Not a good idea.
The one thing I'm not having giveth, I'm not going to taketh away. The governor, Governor Pritzker's appearance in New Hampshire,
the Illinois governor,
and his speech went over really big, traditional, wasn't a podcast, wasn't sitting there with a whack job having a conversation. It was speaking to a group of voters in New Hampshire. Obviously, it's likely to be, Biden had a thing on New Hampshire, so they knocked it out of the number one spot. It'll be back in the number one spot. But Pritzker did a good job of doing a really wholesale slam on Trump and on a whole bunch of issues. Gavin has not done that part of it very well.
Yeah.
No, and it's Pritzker, the Illinois governor, is kind of taking a very aggressive stance. Then you look at Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, who's kind of cozying up to Trump and trying to get money. It sort of reflects, I think, this two minds set of Democrats in general about how do they respond, because you kind of have, I don't know, Bernie Sanders and AOC out there, saying let's fight on every issue, and then you have the great Chuck Schumers of the world saying no, we've got to be really tactical and being careful here. I mean, who's right, Dan?
Oh, Schumer is certainly not. I mean, God, why did they let him on camera? It's just, it's beyond me. It's just beyond me.
I don't know what you're talking about, Dan.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yes, well, we're all getting aroused here. I know. I mean, he's just awful. And
maybe I should have used an example that didn't trigger everyone. But what I mean. Some people are saying, let's pick our battles. Let's, we have to be really strategic about this. And other people are saying that, this is fascism. We have to fight on every single thing.
Well, I don't think that you should that people should chase every squirrel here, right? I mean, I don't. I think the disappearances. It's a huge issue, and I understand the Trump White House probably thinks it's a good issue for them. But it's not. Ultimately, it's un-American, and I think history will show that it's true. I mean, even if these guys are criminals, even if every one of them is a criminal, even if the gay
Several of
hairdresser
them are
is a
clearly
criminal,
not. And
but they're not. The 4-year-old cancer was stage 4 cancer. I mean, like, what's going to happen when that poor child dies, right? And I mean, stage 4 cancer. We all know that you have to follow a regime of, and you can't miss your medication, otherwise you're going to die. This poor kid's going to go. And who's going to be responsible for that?
yeah. Hey, Bill.
Yeah, I just want one thing I would just point out. We all feel California is being picked on, and it's Democratic states are getting. He's killing everybody. What he's doing with the cars. I mean, all that progress they made in South Carolina with the Mercedes-Benz and BMW plant, and then same thing with Alabama. He's going to get these plants closed if he keeps it up. And
Yep.
so, I mean, his Trump is screwing everybody. And it's really remarkable that everybody, this political move and that political move, he's done some of the dumbest things in the world, going right directly at base Trump states. And the local papers in those places are just front page news all the time, and the TV's news is all over it.
Yeah, well, maybe. I mean, Carla's point. I mean, it may be reflected in the polls. I mean, these polls were just devastating for him.
Yeah, I mean, look at, then that is the question for the Democrats. When you've got President Trump right now, a 37% approval rating, and this is in a Fox News poll, and this is the recession hasn't even really officially started yet. The question is, do the Democrats stand by and just let those things go into the?
Well, that is the question. Do they?
know?
I mean, that's the Carville strategy. James Carville says, the Democrats should be playing possum, but I don't know. My sense is it's more effective to push back, and also kind of ethically, morally, and smarter as well, because
Well, in all due respect to my friend James, the truth is we can't do anything about it anyway. They're marching in the streets in Fort Worth. I mean, this is not like some sort of thing that's isolated disease. And so James, bless his heart, what's he going to do about it? Nothing. So it's just hot air. Because people are going to go out there and protest this guy.
that's a good point. I mean, there is.
And the question is, though, I mean, what should be the Democratic strategy, as you pointed out, Jerry? I mean, Carville has one idea. I've heard Democrats say, look, what the party is lacking right now is kind of a rapid response to what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no ad campaign. You're already seeing an ad campaign with Kristi Noem out there. It's every day. If you watch Fox News on what a great job they're doing at DHS. The Democrats need sort of a rapid response thing to just talk.
DHS Barbie, yes.
Yeah, address what's going on, and we're not seeing any sort of coordinated response. Maybe it's because, as the Republicans have done so successfully in Trump, they've been flooding the zone so long with so much news, crazy news, that it's kind of hard to keep up with it. But the fact is, as Bill said, when it comes to plants closing, I mean, just, they had a story, in Rough and Tumble today that mentioned in Fresno alone, Doge cuts $45 million in healthcare, education, Head Start, all these, just Fresno. I mean, these things are hitting people on the front lines. As Bill said, these last protests, I actually went to the one in Oakland and saw it. And, people really turned out in big numbers, and they're willing to do that now. But it doesn't seem like the party has any coordinated response on a regular level to hit every day the stuff that he says. Like yesterday, for instance, well, maybe you can't get $30. Maybe your kid is going to have $2. I mean, that's like an ad. Every day there's a new ad that's delivered to the Democrats, and they don't seem to be taking advantage of it.
Yeah. Hey, Dan.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm all for not. I don't want $30.
Dan, let me
No,
let me
I
ask,
just don't, and
speaking
I
of
don't want to have to
selling,
buy $30.
let me I told you last fall you better peddle that book fast, but you
Yeah,
didn't. I mean,
yeah.
yeah, the perfect Christmas gift is the Kamala biography. But she came out yesterday, finally, out of her Brentwood mansion, where she and her husband were deciding how his law firm could capitulate to Trump, and gave a speech, which was characteristically a rip roar. But I mean, what's is she? Two questions. One, is she going to run for governor? And two, is she a national leader for the party that people are really looking to, or is she like Biden that they would rather not? No, that's the crazy uncle. We'll put them at the end of the table.
Well, I mean, I think she certainly wants to be president. I think it would be a very tough primary. She'd have to fight for it. It would have, I think,
President or governor?
well, both. But I think that if I think she wants to be president. I think it would be a very tough primary. Um, she starts as a front runner though, as the former vice president. But it would be tough. I don't think she can run for president in 2028 and be governor. Governors of California have a big job, and it has not served. It didn't serve Jerry Brown, didn't serve Pete Wilson well to run while they were in office, or Ronald Reagan for that matter. Um, so um, so if she's going to run in 2028, then she should not run for governor. If she runs for governor, then the soonest I would expect her to run would be 2032 for president. Um, I have no idea whether she's going to run for governor. If I were guessing, that's my guess. But she may not.
Yeah. Bill, I found her speech to be unimpressive at best. I mean, does she have the sort of qualities, the leadership qualities that the party would actually look to her, not only in 28, but between now and then, as someone to, kind of carry the torch against Trump?
Well, we're going to get a whole series of books about the campaign. The first one being this one of Jonathan Allen and Amy Parnas, the fight, and I've been reading it, and the truth is, we don't know what kind of candidate she's going to be because she was placed in such an awful position in that whole thing, and Biden's indecisiveness about whether he's staying or going that went on. Now it's pretty obvious that was going on for years. And she was trying to be loyal, because, and I think that was an imperative she had to try to pursue. But I don't know that we know what kind of presidential candidate she would be in a normal situation. Obviously, the first time she ran, it was a cast of thousands, and that was like craziness, the whole thing. I just don't know whether she'd be whether we can judge her quality as a candidate for president based on her run herself and then this whole experience of 2024, which is insane.
Yeah.
I've heard a number of Democrats say, look, where's she been for the last, since January? Why haven't we heard from her? She's been completely silent. I've heard younger Democrats say, look, we need to clean the slate and find a new face to run against Trump if he runs again the next time. they're not happy. A lot of them are not happy with her silence and the way, and believe that her campaign, should she run again for president, it'll be a whole relitigation of the last one. On the governor's race, I think that's something different. With that Emerson poll recently showed, what, 57% of Democrats say they would support her for if she ran, followed by Katie Porter. I think Katie Porter has made a pretty good impression so far as being somebody who's kind of aggressive and out there on social media a lot, hitting Trump every way. And then, you know,
Doesn't it feel somewhat like the Senate race with Schiff being the Harris figure and Katie over here? And yeah, she's making a lot of noise and getting a certain amount of support
yeah,
from.
maybe, yeah, maybe you're right. But I'm just saying that I think Kamala Harris is going to have to, as you said, Jerry, her speech yesterday was okay, but it wasn't, a barn burner. And she's going to have to make some moves in terms of her style and in the way she campaigns and the way she addresses Trump's issues. And I think, in the governor's race, she has a shot if she gets into it. But I'm not sure she can wait very long. I think they said, Dan, end of summer.
Yeah, that's what she's been saying. She'll make her decision by the end of
I
summer.
think that may be too late.
Yeah. Well, by the way, on the $2 instead of 30, that the New York Post covered it this morning is terrific. Skimp on the Barbie is the headline.
Right.
She's gonna get critiqued to death the whole time, no matter what she does.
You mean while she's waiting, Bill?
Yes.
Yeah, this whole Hamlet thing never really works out to anybody.
Doesn't work out. You might as well, if you're going to run and you know in your heart you're gonna run, you should start running.
Right. And if you're not sure, then you shouldn't run. I
You
mean,
should run.
yeah, that's absolutely. Dan, do you have what's your sense of how I mean, for years we had such seniority in the U.S. Senate. California did, and now we have two pretty junior members in Adam Schiff and the other
Alex Padilla.
Alex Padilla.
And
But I thought they've been pretty good, actually. I thought
Yeah,
he has
yeah.
been pretty visible and sharp and correct in his criticisms, and Schiff has not backed down. I mean, he's got a target on his back from leading the impeachment in the House, but I've been pretty impressed with both of them.
Yeah, I think there's not going to be any legislating that gets done. So it's all it's all politics.
It's all
at this
performance.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all performance, and I would not count Schiff out in 2028.
Mhm.
And, I mean, he's not the most dynamic speaker. But what he has done on with regard to Trump, I think that would go a fair distance in a Democratic primary.
He's a good fundraiser. But
I think that the next time, forgetting the Kamala question for a second, I don't think the party's going to turn to a Washington figure. If it's an open thing, I think one of these governors, or two or three of these governors, are going to be real players, because they are going to be able to distance themselves from Washington, which is going to be a very attractive quality.
well, so who's out there? So
Who's
Pritzker,
Bashir,
Bashir, right?
from
Shapiro,
Kentucky.
Shapiro.
Westmore, Shapiro. I think.
Yeah.
And I want to say on Gretchen Whitmer, I think we talked about this last time. I actually went to Michigan before the election and did, I said, just that's it. I'm going to do canvassing for Kamala Harris, and so I met Gretchen Whitmer there. I saw her. She has a real connection to voters out there. She's very strong on the.
So you don't think this sucking up?
I think people are making too much of this. I mean, she's talking to Michigan voters and saying, "I'm representing you. I need to represent your interest, and to do that, okay, I'll go to this event with Trump." So what? She
Do
shook
you
hands
think,
with
and do you think she could then pivot nationally and say, "Hey, I just had to do that to not"?
I don't think the photo op with her holding the wasn't great.
No,
I actually liked
Happens.
it.
No shit happens, and I think
You like the photo?
I did. I did. I thought it was I thought it was real. She didn't want to be there.
Well, so
never,
why not? So why not leave? I mean, he's there issuing executive orders to arrest people for not, saying
she should have just said, you know what,
he
I'm out of
won the
here.
2020 election, and she's sitting there.
I
Yeah.
agree with
I thought it was silly and people made way too much of it.
I think
But I think the hug is problematic.
yeah, I think we tend to make too much of these things, but I gotta say, on a person to person basis and with her voters, which I saw, she is formidable, and I don't think you can count her out just because of a couple of weird events.
Bill, let me.
the other thing about governors, we got a history here. Ronald Reagan, Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton. We also have nominees who lost who were governors. Michael Dukakis. You got governors have done pretty well in presidential nominating fights when there's multiple candidates.
Bill, what about? I mean, how people are turned off to the Democratic Party. The only thing worse in all those polls
Question about that.
was the Democratic Party. What about? What do you think the chances are the Democrats might turn to a non-politician? Just Mark Cuban stand-in type figure, someone who's the prominent on social.
I think it's kind of ruined by Trump. I think
Well, people will be looking for the opposite.
really suspicious. We bought, this guy, and look what happened. I don't know that that's really a great place to be. I'm a non-politician. I don't know. I think that's pretty been somebody's soiled that position in our political world.
Well, he has won twice though.
Yeah.
And he did
And
better in
also,
November than he did.
Well,
yeah, I won, and the Republicans are a little bit different on that than we are. They don't really. They like the idea of somebody who's
they like
not.
4-time indicted felons to it's said. But all right, well, Carla and Dan, you both were barely born when Bill and I were agitating against the Vietnam.
Yeah, thank you. Really, no, not really, but go ahead.
But that was, I mean, that was really the last time we had like mass, huge protests. Is that going to happen and be necessary, if not sufficient, to combating to some of these very serious rule of law, particular things that Trump is up to? What's your take on that, Carl?
I think these protests are going to be instrumental in a lot of ways. We know Trump hates them. We know that he watches what's going on when you have these huge crowds showing up. I was kind of amazed that last first day of the big nationwide protests, you had massive protests in every city, and it was like page A19 of the New York Times. It didn't get a lot of coverage, but people are upset about these issues of gulags, and you're seeing more and more stories of American citizens being taken away by mistake. I mean, this is a personal thing for me, and I've written about it on Twitter because I was a backpacker in Argentina in the 80s, and I got taken away. I got, at the time.
I never knew that. Where'd you get taken?
It was during the dirty war period when the Argentine government decided to go after homegrown criminals, and I was a backpacker, and
What happened? They didn't throw you out of a helicopter, did they?
Yeah, I was super lucky that I wasn't. I was detained, arrested, interrogated, the whole thing, put in a van with nine guys with guns who loaded one next to my head. I mean, I'm telling you, I saw up first close what happens when governments start doing this stuff. And I think Americans understand the dangers. And now you're seeing more and more stories of mistakes that have been made, people taken away, American citizens just because of tattoo. This is resonating with people. And I think the protests, many of the protesters I saw, that's their main worry. They realize this due process issue is a fundamental issue. And to hear Trump discuss it, that interview with Terry Moran the other day on ABC, where he was like, well, yeah, I can bring him back if I want to, but my lawyers are telling me I can't, I mean, but you're the president. And he was finally challenged on that. And I think that is an issue that resonates with people.
And Dan, I got
I
to
think
throw.
the issues that are really going to be really problem for the Republicans, this tariff stuff and crashing the economy is going to be a big bad no. And the same thing goes for healthcare, Medicare, Medicaid, all of that. That is terrible politics, and it's going to crush Trump right where he's done the best, which is blue collar, non-college educated voters in red states. He's got all education. What he's doing to the schools, you can see it now. People all over the country are protesting about all this school stuff. He's taken up the usual issues where he's also soiled the usual issues. People now, you look at the numbers on immigration, a lot of people don't like the way he's handling that.
Right.
And what's going on, and they don't see him providing a solution to immigration. They see him, exiling, literally just hundreds of people. That doesn't mean anything to the average voter.
So, Bill, you're the only one of us that's been like kind of inside those rooms with the principal. I mean, so what's Susie Wiles telling him? What are these? I mean, when he's got all these advisors, I mean, are they like pretending it's not happening or what?
I think they spend all their time trying to keep him from blowing himself up, and I don't really think they have a strategy that they have developed to manage him, because he's now worse than he was the first time he was president. He's in charge now.
Well, it seems to me they've sort of given up trying to manage him.
Yeah,
what would the point be? You'll just, you're not going to win. He's going to do what he's going to do. You know, we're getting exercised about the deportations, the disappearances. A couple of thoughts on that. First of all, I 100% agree with Bill that it's going to come down to the economy. The economy shrank in the first quarter. It's going to be much worse in the second quarter. I don't see China has any incentive to back down here. I think Trump picked this fight, and if China capitulates, I just can't imagine. I think that it will China's struck a deal with Japan of all countries. So we're seeing
Canada and get Japan and China to cooperate. That's hard.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. One of the things that I just remember sitting in the legislature, long nights in the Assembly and the Senate, and days and hearing Republicans talk about government overreach, and where are we now? Where are those Republicans? Some of them are in Congress. Tom McClintock is one. A so-called advocate of small government, congressman from, God, he represents Yosemite, if you can imagine. Where are the voices of these small government Republicans, the people who would shudder at the notion that Democrats would that they would insist. I would talk about nanny government. I mean, good God, what do we have now? We have government that masked agents pick up a woman on the street.
That's
masked
the
agents.
remarkable thing is that it's not.
Yeah.
It's not small government versus nanny state. I mean, all of the sort of contradictions that were between the two parties. I mean, we have an authoritarian party and a pro-democracy party. That's what it is. And
Mhm.
I have to say, I never saw that coming in 50 years of doing this stuff.
Mhm.
I just,
Mhm.
Yeah, and we all have sources and who we know well, have talked to for decades, who are Republicans, and I cannot imagine that that you know that Ron Nearing, Jim Brulte, that in their hearts of heart they don't think this is crazy
I,
and
I,
un-American.
I can assure you, having talked to some of those people, they do privately. They think
privately,
it's all insane,
privately.
Privately, right.
but
But
they're not.
the lack of courage is just astonishing too.
It is astonishing, and they're going to. They think they're just going to wait this guy out.
Yeah.
But then, Bill, you've got, the Silicon Valley guys, and who would have envisioned them, waiting the guy out, but
Yeah.
they're like throwing money at him, placing bets on their own future to watch Mark Zuckerberg and, and Bezos and Tim Cook and some of you,
Elon,
yeah, and Elon. I mean, who employs 30,000 people in California alone. And that has been a mind blower in terms of the Silicon Valley turnaround and how those people have gone just full bore with Trump. And that is the other issue. I mean, when you're talking about Elon Musk alone and how he has hired, and there's just story after story of hiring these 20-year-olds from San Francisco to go into DHS or the Department of Education and just cut the shit
well,
out
that and gather all of our data.
and gather all of our data. And that's another area, Dan, where you would expect Republicans, to be
Outrage.
outraged. They for years talked about the deep state. What is the deep state except somebody, collecting all your data, some big brother collecting all your data, and who knows what they're going to do with it. I think all of these things are going to amass, and we're going to start seeing. And you already saw Trump yesterday try to blame the economy, say, well, the
Biden.
next quarter is going to be the Biden economy too. We have Christmas coming up where you're going to start seeing where the prices are going to hit everybody. The toys are going to be outrageous. You're not going to see anything on the shelves. You're already seeing. I don't know if you guys have gone. Jerry, you called me Costco Carla a long time ago, and it's like Costco, check it out. There are already lines. They're already packed with people buying like rice. The stuff that from China. The craziness has already set in. The panic has already set in. You can see it on that front when you go to Costco. The lines are much longer with people buying shit because they're worried that the prices are going to go up right away.
We got to get out. But I want to say two things. One is I really appreciate the three of you doing this, and I want to do it again in a couple of months and keep this as a regular feature because your knowledge and insight and experience, particularly, is so important to hear from people. So thank you for that. And second is, I've been depressed. Bill used the word depressed, honestly, and waking up with a sense of dread on so many mornings. And I don't want to get all misty, but I've been reading the Federalist Papers, and which I never did before. I read one of them or two, but and it is remarkable what an unusual thing it was that they put together this constitutional democracy because nothing like it had ever happened. And that's a cliche and we hear it and stuff, but I think we're really seeing now how remarkable it was, how remarkable it is, because this guy is trying to tear at this and tear it apart. And there was a lot of moving parts and compromise that went into it. Hopefully we'll get through it. I mean, it doesn't matter to me, but we were talking earlier before we came about my grandkids and kids, and boy,
Yeah.
I hope the Democrats get their act together in this. All right, Dan Morain, Carla Marinucci, Bill Carrick, thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for having us, Jerry.
And we'll be in touch to get back here in 3 months or so, and we'll see where who knows where we'll be by that time.
Onward, yes.
All right,
Okay.
thanks a lot.
All right.
All right.
Yeah.